Our
Yes. And
bodies are so powerful and so amazing, and functional medicine and focusing on your own wellness, you can really unleash the power of what we already have inside. We can use our immune system for good instead of it targeting us. We can use our digestion and the power of food, to heal us and avoid the things that might be, our kryptonite and hurt us, and eat the things that really do heal us.
hi, Kerry. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. This is going to be a treat for the listeners today. What we're going to talk about is something that people might not have considered before and is very important when it comes to healing from autoimmune diseases and basically any kind of ailment that you have.
Yeah.
But since this is for our autoimmune listeners, this is what we're going to focus on. So thank you, Kerry. Welcome to the show. And if you could, can you just give the listeners of the show just a brief story of how you got to be where you are? Because you are also a functional medicine health coach like I am.
Mhm.
And we all have gotten here from our own journey, right? I mean,
Yes,
that's
very
our,
much so.
yeah. So if you could give the listeners a little bit more about yourself and let them learn about you a little bit, that would be greatly appreciated.
Well, sure. Well, again, thank you for having me on the show with Amanda, because a woman worth healing is definitely how I felt inside, when all of this has been happening over the decades, really, of my life. And it's so important that women know that they are worth healing, and that sometimes they're just going to have to take control of that themselves. And that's really the start of my story, is that I was a teenager when I started having health issues, and it just continued on from there. They just got worse and worse and worse. And over the decades of pregnancies that were really hard, and my children being sick, and me trying to figure out all this myself, I was actually able, through diet and biofeedback and even some lifestyle changes, to heal myself essentially. And that eventually led me into functional medicine, originally to just figure out what I needed to do for me. And then once I was able to heal myself and feel so much better and reach my version of normal health, which is not everyone's version, then that's where the passion for me came, and just coming back to being able to help other people through the process, whether it be through digestive wellness, motherhood wellness, childhood wellness. All of those things are very important to me.
So you said something before you move on. You said to get myself back to my normal health, and it's not the same as everyone else's. Can you explain a little bit to the audience what you mean by that?
Well, I struggled with that idea for several years, and it's part of what I think kept me in a health cycle that was poor, where I would feel better and then I would decline again, is because I thought I was healing from something,
Mhm.
that I was in recovery from some kind of sickness or illness or something like that. And eventually, in this last probably 5 years of my struggles, I figured out that it's just, I have a version of wellness that's right for me, that, genetically and through all of my environmental experiences, my body requires a certain, set of rules and owner's manual, so to speak, that is not the same version for everyone else. And that's why I feel like functional medicine is such a great approach to wellness, is because it's very personalized. And once I personalized that for myself, and I figured out what worked for me, what didn't, what my rules, like I said, of engagement are every day, or to combat certain scenarios that I find myself in, I was actually able then to maintain my health in a much more stable fashion, because I wasn't expecting to reach some type of healing point where I would just be fine again. That wellness
Mhm.
is something that you have to do for yourself every single day. And wellness for me and the rules for me are different than they are for my children, different than for my husband. We all have different things that we bring to the table that have to be dealt with our wellness. And as soon as you can identify what those things are, at least from my personal experience, it was much easier to maintain all the things that I needed to, just looking at my own control board, and all the dials and all the things that I needed to
Yeah.
do to keep on a stable trajectory, and realize what things shake up my world, and what do I do to recover when my world gets shaken,
Mm.
and expect those things, to come, because
Yeah.
I was always trying to find a safe place. And in today's world, if you're interacting with people and you're outside of your four walls, there is no, safe, comfortable place anymore. You've got to manage with all the things. All the dodgeballs have to be dealt with. And I was running from dodgeballs instead of being able to catch them or just let them bounce off of me and keep going.
That is such a good metaphor. Is instead of running from them, I'm able to catch them and then throw them back if I need to. That is empowerment right there.
Hmm.
And knowing that you have the power to make the changes. You have the power to shape your own world.
Right.
And you explained that so beautifully with, you just gave permission to the listeners and ideas to like, oh, maybe I'm not doing things wrong because I'm following exactly what my doctor's telling me to do, or I'm doing what other people are doing it and it's working for them. But why is it not working for me?
Hmm.
And the thing is we have to stop looking outside of ourselves and look inward and figure out what works for us. Like what we find on the outside is kind of like a template for us to use to guide us, but we have to fill in the blanks
Hmm.
and figure out what works best for us. And yeah, we all have our different experiences in the world. So one thing might work for you and it wouldn't for me, and vice versa.
And, Amanda, what you really just did is describe what you and I do as health coaches. Our job is to help people write their own owner's manuals. We have no
Yes.
idea what their answers are going to be. They are an experiment. We are there to watch the experiment with them, give them an outside view of what might be happening, help them navigate all the information that is out there, because, the more information actually is making it so much more confusing. People are actually hurting themselves with some things that they try that aren't meant for them. So, it's really about finding the things that do work. And even on different days, like when I travel, or if it's spring versus winter, my owner's manual changes. I have to do different things depending on what's going on or who's coming over. If I get myself all worked up, I even have a little device on my phone. I laid it here because I had to use it to get ready for this. It connects to my phone, and I can immediately tell what the status of my internal organs and all that kind of, my heart rate, my breathing, my stomach, all those things are, because I'll get myself, all worked up, and then the digestion goes. And
Mm.
after that, once digestion goes, my day is no longer the same.
So for the people who are listening to the podcast and not watching on YouTube, what did you just hold up? What are you referring to that helps you guide
It's
you?
an app on my phone, called Heart Math, and if
Ah.
you can see it, if you're you know watching, it's got
Mhm.
pretty colors and stuff. And then it's a device that connects to my ear, measures my heart rate variability, Bluetooth through to my phone. So as
Okay.
it's measuring that, it can tell whether my internal state is actually at a calm place. I might think I'm calm in my head and I might be thinking calm thoughts, but the biofeedback is another indication that that's not true. So if you saw the colors, like there's blue, red, and green, and in preparing for the few minutes beforehand, I was several red, several blue, and then finally got myself into the green zone. And that lets me know then that my body state is in a calm place.
Wow. Yeah, I love heart math. Um,
Mhm.
I definitely want to dig that deeper into that. So that's amazing that you did that beforehand. I do something similar, but I don't have a device. I do my calming before I get on any call with a client.
Yeah.
I do that before I start to record an episode.
Hmm.
And it's so important to get yourself grounded and into that coherence and into a place where you're calm and you're able to be creative and flow and truly listen and get your thoughts out. And that you did that before you came on. And it's nice. So when that's such a nice device, that heart math device. Is there a certain name for it?
No, the heart math, it's just it's all the same. So
Okay.
yeah, it's
So
the heart math body, personal device that you wear on your ear.
okay. So that helps you because especially okay, let me just back up a little bit. So
Sure.
basically we are not taught from a young age, even as an adult, how to go inward and to have that awareness of our body and our thoughts and our mind. And so we don't understand or know or even feel what's happening in our body.
Right. And you've just described my childhood.
I think I'm describing almost everyone's childhood,
Yeah.
right? Because I was able to express that because that's me as well.
Yeah.
So it's so important to have that awareness of ourself to actually heal. I mean, that's why we're here right now in the first place, because we were never taught that. And our body and our mind is bringing us back to that and asking us, please, please, you need to learn our language. We can't live like this anymore. And you have a device. So, and that's good for people who, like most people who don't even know the sensations in our bodies or what it means or taking the time to learn it. So you have a device to help you build that confidence in yourself to know, okay, it's showing that this is where I'm supposed to be. Now I know how that feels, how it feels to be in that place.
Exactly.
And then eventually you won't even need that device because so right now you're teaching yourself. And then eventually you won't even need it because you already know how to do it.
I use it when it's paramount that I am sure that I am actually in a place of coherence. Because there are times where I'll get myself so multitasking, with whatever is coming up, that I need to double check and triple check that I'm actually where I think I need to be, because I've started to be able to talk myself out of, and to convince myself that I'm actually okay when I'm not. So I use it now to double check that, because in the training phase, it was very necessary because I couldn't get there. And now, it's, I hear that it makes a little sound. So I'll put it on and I'll kind of just do a check-in, and it's like, bing, bing. And then if I'm off, it goes bong. And I'm like, oh, so that that sound feedback lets me know too. And then if I'm doing all right, then I'm like, okay, good. I checked in, but I'm doing good.
Yeah. So we both spoke about that coherence. Can
Mhm.
you explain a little bit more to the listeners? What do we mean by that?
Well, the coherence and what it's measuring is the heart rate variability. So your heart rate is, when you're calm and feeling at ease, is slightly going up and then slightly going down. And that's what the device is measuring, is to make sure that that's what's happening. It changes with your breathing. So when your breathing gets elevated or out of control, the heart rate also goes erratic with the breathing, and it gets out of that smooth up and down motion. And so that's what the device is actually checking for. So you mentioned being able to just do deep breathing. A lot of times I just have to stop breathing. I just hold my breath for a little bit longer because I've gotten myself so agitated that I need to slow it down really quickly. So that's what it's looking for, is that coherence. And when that's happening, the parasympathetic nervous system is working. So it's helping digestion, it's helping restore, it's kind of shutting off the fight or flight response of the immune system and all of the hormones that go into getting us, ready to run or to fight somebody, and making sure that we're in that kind of calmer state where everything is working. The digestive system really only functions properly when you're calm. It's a biological thing to protect us, just like an animal. If a rabbit was being chased by a bear, the digestive system, you hear it, it drops everything. Let's go of the urine, all the smelly stuff, to try to get every animal away from it as a protection device, because no one wants to eat something that's smelly and stinky. So that's what our bodies are doing. It's like, shut off the digestion, get rid of everything. And that's a cycle that, perpetuated in my life from being a teenager and going through all kinds of traumas. And my body just got trained to do that constantly. So the heart math device allows me to slow everything down, make sure it's going well, make sure digestion is working, and keep that parasympathetic nervous system, in my grasp. I call it a leash. It's kind of leashing the sympathetic, that leashing that overactive fight or flight response and getting control of it, kind of like a little puppy dog.
Yeah, and it's to add a little bit to that, with when you're in that fight or flight, in that survival mode, you also cannot digest because your body needs all that energy to go to your extremities so that you can fight or flee. So it doesn't want to focus any energy on unnecessary things. So in our daily lives, most of us, the way that society is set up, we are constantly in this fight or flight. And then we're all sick. So
Mhm.
we all have chronic
But we're
illnesses.
also trying to eat in the midst of all this. So
Yeah.
we're running through fast food, we're grabbing something really quickly, we're eating things that are actually hard to digest because they have preservatives in them or toxins in them, that don't make it easy to digest. If bacteria won't digest it, how are we supposed to digest it?
Mm,
So, we're eating things that make it very hard on our digestive system on the go. So it's a no wonder that our digestive systems are just taking a beating, which then leads into other things with leaky gut and all those chemicals and toxins, and even just the regular food. The immune system sees that partially digested food as an invader because it's like, this isn't what it should look like. It's only partially digested. So it doesn't know that it's food that it can use, and it can't use it. Once it enters the bloodstream, it can't be used as it needs to be properly because it hasn't been broken down to the point that the body can use it in its proper form. So the immune system gets involved, we get inflammation. It leads to all these other things, to all the other body systems through our digestive system.
mhm. So what Carrie's explaining here is that leaky gut that a lot of people are hearing nowadays. It's with that stress, we have like these tight junctions in our gut that, like, if you're on YouTube, you see I have my fists together, and it opens up to let um nutrients in. But sometimes, like Carrie's saying, we aren't able to digest properly because we are in that fight and flight state, that um, partial undigested food gets through, and 70% of your immune system surrounds your gut. So your immune system's there on alert, waiting for invaders to come in and to attack it. And then it's in the bloodstream, like you said. And that's also where you start getting food sensitivities.
Mm-hmm.
So the immune system is tagging these foods. This is an invader, so beware when this comes in again, we have to attack. And that's where we have more inflammation, more discomfort in the gut, and everywhere, even our mind is affected
Well,
by
yes,
all
because
that.
interestingly, the immune system also doesn't know that it's not supposed to attack those same particles in our bodies. So, what we're eating are the building blocks of our joints and our muscles and our nerves and our brain and all these other components of our body. So our nervous system is like, well, this still looks like this. And it actually starts to self-attack, where we get the autoimmune coming in, where it's attacking us because these undigested particles look very similar to body parts that we already have. And it can't tell the difference. It's blind. So it actually starts to attack those places. And, when we eat foods, then we'll end up with headaches because it's attacking our nervous system, or joint pain or muscle pain, inflammation in other places. So it really does. The digestive system is the gateway. And when it goes, it lets everything get out of whack.
Yeah. And we're talking about digestive because I originally had you on to talk about that and to have um, this healthy relationship with food,
Hmm.
so that our body can actually absorb the food properly and nourish it. And this is what it has come to, and this is beautiful how it has come, because this all ties in together. And you spoke about, when I said about the not knowing how we feel in our body. And we never learn that. And you said it stemmed from when you were a kid. You're explaining my experience. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And mine started basically around our kitchen table. That's where the family would come together, and our family was quite dysfunctional with arguments, and my parents ended up being divorced by the time I was 7. So there was lots and lots of arguments, especially around food. I usually still had to eat because that was something that was important, as I wasn't always allowed to, not eat my food. So trying to eat when I didn't feel like eating started that association with feeling nauseated from eating the food. I didn't understand, obviously, as a child, that the anxiety I was feeling was what was making my stomach hurt, not the food, but that's how my body learned it. So I started with this relationship with food that started very early and continued on to where I would be getting violently sick in later years when I was not paying attention to wellness. Really, I didn't understand all these impacts that it was having on me. I would eat a lot of the foods that I just craved as comfort foods, not knowing that those actual foods were what was making me sick. I have a lot of sensitivities to dairy and to gluten. That's historic through our genetic line. And so I was constantly vomiting, diarrhea, headaches. I mean, I got so sensitive to dairy at one point in time that just a little bit of butter on someone else's plate would have me passing out and vomiting. So all of those experiences with food and the reactions to them made me very food anxious at times. There was just an association with eating over the decades. What brings to mind for me is my husband and I had a discussion about it very early on. And he, got sick one time from eating Long John Silver's fish and has never been able to eat it since, just that one experience. And I've had, probably thousands of food experiences go that way. So for me, relearning how to separate what's actually going on with the food and what's just an anxious reaction for my body has been vital to the healing process for me, because it even though the food might not be the problem anymore, if my stomach is instantly like, forget this, I'm not doing it, it doesn't even give it a chance. So I've had to learn a lot of simple ways to retrain my system. I do that a lot through the coaching that I do for digestive wellness, is helping people with that relationship with food and learning what foods are actually the issue and what issues they're having with just eating in general. So learning how to eat in a more loving, caring way for yourself and pay attention to what you're eating, but that those are two separate things that have to be done. We can't just always be paying attention to the ingredient itself.
Oh, that's such a good point, and you said it so beautifully. Is learning to eat in a more loving way. And yes, you're right. It's not just about the ingredient. It's everything. It's the energy that you put into making that food, the energy that you put into when you go to put that into your body. It's that mindset that you have. Like for you, with the trauma that you experience around food, being forced to eat food, and also being around like an environment that wasn't healthy and could be kind of scary.
Right.
And then you're eating that at the same time. So you're associating that food with those experiences. And then your body doesn't want to accept it because it doesn't feel safe to eat those foods.
Exactly.
And yeah, and so it's creating that environment and having that experience with your body, like how you're doing with the heart math, is understanding the language of your body and feeling into your body and understanding what you need, and always having that awareness to always check in with yourself. And so having all that, it creates that loving environment, and it's checking in with yourself and addressing yourself and allowing you and your body to understand that this is going to nourish us. It's not going to harm us. I know our experience in the past, it seemed that way, but it's not like that anymore. And it's learning to trust, allowing your body to trust that as well. So, would you be willing to share with us just some little steps or some things that you've done to address that, to make your body feel safe again around food?
Well, a lot of it I have to use humor for, because the associations that I have are very negative and are, I have a lot of anxiety associated with that. So I had to bring laughter into a lot of it, and because mentally I was constantly trying to force myself to feel better and I just couldn't. So I had to laugh about it. I had to make it funny. I had to be like, okay, this one of my favorite ones is a picture of a cow, because cows stampede when they run over things, they stampede on things and crush them. And so it's a picture of a cow helping another cow who's beating herself in the face. And it says, stop stampeding yourself, stop stampeding yourself. These are things that we're doing to ourselves, and trying to kind of bring a little bit of laughter in there of like, okay, we're going to calm down. We're not going to stampede ourselves today. We're just going to sit here and enjoy this. And sometimes I had to move away from the family that was eating. So for a while, I didn't eat with the rest of the group. I would prepare everything and sit there at the table and laugh and talk with them. And then I would eat after, because we had teenagers and everybody was always discussing this issue and this issue and that issue. And just in and of those things would kind of get my stomach a little worked up. So because of the issue, not because of the food that I was eating. So I would eat after the family ate, when it was a little bit calmer and I could just sit and eat. Sometimes I would sit at the table just by myself, doing the deep breathing and associating that with a pleasant feeling. The heart math really did help during that, because it was a way for me to ensure that while I was eating, I was actually calm, being aware of chewing the food. I even watched comedy shows, when I was eating, because I needed to feel good. It wasn't enough to tell myself to stop being anxious. I actually had to feel a positive experience. So I would watch funny things or something that made me laugh, feeling better about that, and then associating that with the food while I was sitting calmly. So it was really about transforming some of those traditions that had been so negatively associated with some more positive ones, that allowed me over time to feel better.
That I heard so much information in that small amount of time. So I was like, I don't know if you noticed, I was writing down notes just so I
Oh, that's okay.
could keep up, because the thing that stood out to me, the first thing was what you did for yourself. You were building a loving relationship with yourself, and you had to give yourself what you needed in those moments. So sure, you might have wanted to have a nice dinner with your family and your family wanted you there, but that's not what you needed. It's not what's expected of you. It's doing what you needed. And that was in turn building a loving, trusting relationship with yourself. You're showing your body that, hey, I'm listening to you, I'm working with you, you can trust me to make good choices. And you also talked about being in a good high vibrational state, being in that positive
Mhm.
state, because that's the healing state right there. When we're down in the low vibration and those awful feelings, um like hatred or mad or scared,
Mhm.
those are the places where, for one, we can't digest, because now we're scared, so we're in that fight or flight and we can't heal. So you knew you had to work yourself back up however you felt, so you had to get creative, and you used humor
Mhm.
to do that.
And shout out to my son. He's made me a DC and Marvel and Disney fan. I would eat in the middle of movies, so I would pop in one of those inspiring movies And, where they've got the superheroes in there, or it's one of the princess stories or something like that, that was kind of a real feel good, fuzzy, kind of show. I'd seen it 5 times, so I already knew how it was going to end, so I didn't feel anxious. I really enjoyed like the empowerment in some of the different series and things like that, where the women are strong. And I would pause it in the middle once I felt better and eat some food and then continue to watch, because those were the places where I really felt inspired and felt like I was being transported to a different place, that the vibration was high and there were role models for me to watch. And it was, there's obviously some drama in those shows, but it's, they're all targeted a lot of times towards kids for the most part anymore. But those were moments that really helped me. And some of those superheroes became, my mentors. And I use phrases from their shows. I've got Captain America, I can do this all day. I've got Wonder Woman in there, where she's out going across the German battlefield, and she's got her wrists and she's just, knocking the bullets away, and she just keeps going. And it's not that stuff isn't coming at her. She's just, deflecting and continuing to move on. And so those were really inspiring things for me that led me to start to believe that, I'm just my own version of a superhero. And I even wear things, I have bracelets that remind me of certain things. I have another bracelet on that says be still. I have one that reminds me of it's my 6 virtues, and then my healing relationship with the universe and God. And I arm myself like those heroes do, to remind me that I have powers as well when I'm dealing with situations as simple as eating a meal without feeling sick.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I'm glad you brought that up, how you are your own superhero, or you have the power to
Everybody does.
everybody does.
Yes, everybody does. Our
Yes. And
bodies are so powerful and so amazing, and functional medicine and focusing on your own wellness, you can really unleash the power of what we already have inside. We can use our immune system for good instead of it targeting us. We can use our digestion and the power of food, to heal us and avoid the things that might be, our kryptonite and hurt us, and eat the things that really do heal us, and in the form that we enjoy. And this is another interesting way of how I make things digestible for myself. And really love the food that I'm eating, because when you're on a restricted diet, or you're reacting to all kinds of things, food gets really plain and really boring fast. And it's hard to find something to eat. So for instance, today I knew that I was going to be coming on this. I needed to find something that would be yummy for me, but very simple. So I had a turkey breast and sweet potato and some rice. Now, plain on a plate, that looks, I was not appetizing at all, but I'm a soup lover. So I threw all that into the blender. I blended it up with some salt and a few seasonings, threw my rice in. I had to sneak in a little bit of liver because I have some iron issues. So I threw some little pieces of liver in there. It turned it into a nice, hot, warm cup of yummy soup, and just devoured the whole thing. My body loved it because it didn't have to hardly digest anything. It's all liquefied, and I had no problems whatsoever. But I had to make it yummy, because when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, that doesn't look appetizing. But soup, that yummy warm soup sounded great.
Yeah,
So
that's like a comfort
exactly. So
meal.
it doesn't matter what the ingredients are if you don't love it. So, my husband, he has to put pizza sauce. Pizza sauce has to go on almost everything that he eats. He loves pizza flavoring. So, we put all kinds of healthy things down for him. And as long as you slap some pizza sauce on it, he'll probably eat it. But that's because that's the taste he loves. That's a desire for him, to bring in. So really loving what you're eating and enjoying it is so important.
Yes.
Besides what the ingredients actually are, because you want your body to feel that it's going to welcome it in, versus like it tastes bad or you don't like it, or if you're starting with that reaction, the stomach is already behind. It's already not gonna win.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, that's basically like how I was starting to feel because I was on and am on an anti-inflammatory diet to help with my healing process. And I was starting to have those reactions, not where like, oh, this looks bland, or, this doesn't look appealing, but in a sense, like with cross contamination or foods that can, like in the past has had like digestive issues with it, or I know that it's going to cause inflammation. I was starting to get, I don't know if I want to say anxiety.
You have like a
Maybe that's,
pre-reaction. You have a before you
yeah,
even eat it reaction.
yes.
Yeah.
So already my body's not ready to accept it. So
Right.
and I didn't realize I was doing that. I wasn't realizing like, oh my God, like I was deeming food as bad and good.
Right.
And the bad food wasn't necessarily bad, but I deemed it as bad. So then when it came into my awareness, it's like, oh, this is going to hurt me. I can't have this.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize I was starting to do that. And or like with the cross contamination, why did you do that? Why did you like put your food over my food where some crumbs could fall into my food? Like, stuff like that.
Right.
Like I'm trying so hard here and
Mhm.
I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's not helpful. That's not coming with love and compassion at all. And I had to work on that. Like, no, this is going to nourish my body. What we're doing here is good, and it's all good, or it's all neutral. It is what it is. And so when I heard, like, you and I were in a mentoring class for functional medicine health coaching, and you kind of spoke something about it, and I'm like, I feel her. But our story is different. But I just felt like you had more time to really dissect that than I did. Like I just started getting aware of that. You had almost your whole life
Yes.
to figure that out.
And a lot of stuff to undo, and so
Yes.
the longer things, longer people go with issues, the more then we're trying to undo them. But one of the things that I found that was so wonderful about the body is it is resilient. If it, there's no way I could have healed as fast as I did if it would have taken me as long to undo as it did to create all of this. And so, there is hope there that you can, the body will respond quite quickly as you start giving it new associations and learn how to leash it. And I have a little story, if you like me to share, about a puppy dog and an owl that kind of keeps this in perspective for me. Do we have time for that?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Well, it's a visualization. I love analogies and stories because when my mind gets going and racing too much, I lose all the technical and all the professional and all these things, and I just need the basics that basically kids can use. So I have a little puppy dog that is my image of, his name is Pete, and it is the potential excitement, threats, and emergencies. So he is the one that reacts, when things are really exciting, he wags his tail, he gets all going. But then when there's threats and emergencies, he's also barking and very, upfront and agitated. And then Patty is the owl side of me, which is personal awareness and therapeutic intervention. So meaning I need to be more aware of myself and I need to take some type of intervention here to continue to be well. And those are the two things that I think of that go back and forth. And I see them as friends. When, Patty Owl is walking her little dog, Pete, they're going out together. And when Pete sees something that is exciting or, a threat or an emergency, he's barking and barking and barking. And Patty needs to kind of calm him down and say, no, 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 this isn't a threat. It's just the neighbor, and I had lost that ability. I had been through so many traumas that Pat and Pete, when they would go out, would be reacting to everything. I had lost the ability to be aware of myself. My owl was flying out of control. My little puppy dog was barking at everybody. And in that state, I couldn't find a safe place. So because of that, I just retreated from everything. I tried to stay away from foods. I tried to stay away from people. I didn't go out. I had really become a ball of anxiety and almost compulsiveness of trying to, like you had mentioned, don't let this go over here and don't touch that. And because I was reacting to foods on other people's plates because I had taken, part of their broccoli or was cleaning up from something, I was reacting to conditioners and smells, and I couldn't go into bathrooms and touch door handles because My hands would swell up. I mean, I was reacting to everything. And so when I kind of learned about this dual kind of control, I realized that Pete was basically just not listening to Patty anymore. She had been wrong so many times and, trying to say, it's okay, it's okay. There's not going to be a problem here, but there always was. And it became a place where I was very just disheartened. I had felt very hopeless, like I was never going to be able to get control of my body again. No one was able to give me any pills or anything that would help. And I was at that place where I didn't know if I was worth saving. Coming back to your idea of a woman worth saving, I was like, what's the point? It's so hard to take care of me. There's so many problems. I have this long list of things that have to be done. And it wasn't until I had mildly recovered from a couple things, and my son really wanted to go rock climbing. And it was going to be the last time I was going to be able to do anything with him because he was graduating, and this was kind of our last chance, and no one else wanted to go rock climbing with him. And mind you, was just coming off of being 95 pounds and bedridden, and my family was completely against the whole entire thing. But he went to the gym with me. I worked out, got myself to the point that I felt like I could do it. I was still pretty scared. And I'm talking like rock climbing, 10,000 feet in the air on belays and stuff. It turned out to be way more than I expected. I thought I was signing up for a semi kind of amusement park type deal, this is going to be great. It was real rock climbing. And I found myself on the side of the mountain with our guide, and I had a panic attack. I could not control myself. My body was going into complete shutdown because I was going to have to reach out and cross over a ledge and basically be free, not completely like I was still harnessed in, but like not standing on something. And the coach, I say coach, but she was, the assistant, she said, you can't go up and we cannot go down. So we're going to have to sit here until you get control of yourself and can move around this ledge. And we sat there for probably 20 minutes, just hanging on. And that was where I learned that I have to move through all of this regardless. I have to, the dodgeball, I can't keep running from the dodgeballs. I can't keep running from the world. I have got to find the power to get control of my body and move head on into what things are coming at me. And so I gathered all the things that I had been learning from functional medicine, the deep breathing, my heart rate, all of that, got it all there in those 20 minutes. And then was able to move on to the next thing. And then it happened again, another, 15 or 20 minutes later. And I gathered it all together and moved on again. And that's where Pete and Patty, my relationship with the two of them changed, because the whole time before that mountain climbing experience, Patty was always saying, it's okay, it's fine, we're safe. And those were all lies. Those were all lies to Pete, and he knew it. He's like, we're not safe. There's all kinds of stuff going on here. So my dialogue for Pete and Patty internally changed to Patty saying, there's a lot out there. There is, but we're going to be okay anyway. And we don't have to bark. We don't have to overreact. We still have to deal with everything, but we have to keep ourselves calm. We have to make sure that your heart rate is down and you're not getting overexcited. Stop jumping, stop wagging your tail, get your body under control, and move on with whatever is ahead of you. It's still going to be challenges, still going to be dangers, still going to be things you don't expect. But in the middle of all that, Patty and Pete both have to stay calm. The body has to stay calm, which for me represents Pete, and the mind has to stay in those thoughts that, we're not running, we're facing this head on, but we're going to do it calmly. We're going to still be able to eat. We're still going to be able to control our heart rate. We're still going to be able to control our breathing and get the animal side under control again. And now I feel like Pete and Patty, for me, can go anywhere and deal with about anything because of that ability to self-control, to be self-aware and control those physical responses that I honestly thought were uncontrollable. I didn't know that you could slow your heart rate. I didn't know that you could make your stomach feel better. I just didn't know those things prior to this.
Well, Carrie,
Sorry, that was a
that
really long and involved
no,
story, but
no,
that's the essence of what's happened to me and why I've been able to transform myself and why I feel like everyone can transform themselves.
yes, that is such an inspiring story to show people, I mean, where you were. I mean, you said you couldn't even touch a door handle without reacting to that. Where you were and where you are today, it gives other people hope that this is possible. But going back to your story of, like, I was like getting tears in my eyes when you spoke about that that climb, that rock climbing experience. What a beautiful lesson that you were taught in that time. I mean, everyone was against you doing it, but for some reason you did it because you needed to learn that lesson. And and the thing, what also was the beauty of the story is you had someone there with you. That assistant was
Hmm.
basically, because you kept calling her a coach, because that's
Hmm.
what we do as coaches, right?
Exactly.
She held space for you. She allowed yourself the time that you needed. She wasn't rushing you, but she was being honest.
Hmm.
You can't go up right
Very,
now,
very blunt, very blunt.
and you can't go down. So you have to figure this out.
Hmm.
That part right there like made me want to cry, because that was like a message to me and to everybody is, when we're sick and we're in a place that we feel like our body is giving up on ourselves, which is never is. It never is.
Right. No, it's
We're the
right
one that's
there.
giving up on our
Hmm.
bodies. Um, when we're in a place of like, what's the use? Like how you said, that's the message you needed. This is where you're at. Okay. Good or bad. It's just neutral. This is where you're at. You cannot move forward, but you can't go backwards either. You have to figure this out. And that's essentially the message for everybody is, you are the expert of your own body. You're the only one that can make these changes. Where are you going to find that inside yourself to say, I can't go up and I can't go down until I figure out where I'm at right now so that I
Hmm.
can move forward. And I might be able to move forward, but then I might have to stop again and recoup and give myself what I need and then keep going. And it's building that resilience and confidence within yourself and showing yourself love and compassion at the same time.
Well, and what was interesting, which I find her, it was an amazing experience, but very, very parallel to what, the coaching and how coaching is so helpful, is that she had been watching me do some of the preliminary climbs and some of the easy things that were very simple that did not, push me into a panic attack. And she just, took some time to remind me of those things. And she's like, remember when you were in this section here? And you didn't think you could do that, but you did XYZ. And so, those are things that are important for us to reflect back on our past successes. And some of those things do translate, even strangely enough, rock climbing to what you're eating for dinner. It's the skill that is that basic, mind body interaction that can be applied to so many different places. And I'm sure that the listeners have had that experience somewhere where you've been able to create that mind body relationship and feel successful. And it's still there. You might not have access to it right now, but you can go back and remember what it is and bring those skills forward of what you do with your strengths and apply those to these scenarios. And in as simple a situation as how you're going to eat and how you're going to feel about eating. And it's very powerful that those things move modalities so easily.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I mean, you can even use it as, how am I going to get out of bed today?
Hmm.
I need to adjust myself and meet me where I'm at and be able to get up and move forward.
Well, you say that interestingly. I've came through this whole experience. I've been back on my feet, the rock climbing, all this just trajectory going great. And 2 months ago was in a car accident and now have issues in my neck and things. And it completely changed up how I have to do things because now I have trouble cooking. I have trouble sleeping. I have trouble with exercise. I wasn't aware that just lifting things up off the ground pulled your head down and it causes me neck pain. So all the routines that I've spent developing however long, my normal is now being reestablished once again. And this point in time, I have to honestly say it's only been a few speed bumps. I've adapted quite quickly to new ways to do things that are now, a side note in my owner's manual that I had taken such good time of writing everything out and understanding. But that happens. We get sidetracked by things. We get hit by stuff that we don't expect. And just because um, it's changing things doesn't mean that I can't change right along with it and figure out a new normal for this scenario. And some of the things are translating that I used to do. Some of them I'm having to do completely new things. I didn't know that you could exercise laying down. So I literally have to do my exercises with my head being supported and exercise that way. So, at any point in time, we can have something happen to us that we don't expect, but knowing that we have the power, that I possess the ability to, again, figure out what actually works, get rid of what doesn't, and problem solve for my own wellness without
Mhm.
someone else having to come to my aid, because my husband works. He works a lot. My kids are graduated. They're off, to college. It's just me. I need to take care of myself, and that feeling that power to know that I can stay calm, not get myself all worked up about it, and discover new normals until, eventually I'm sure this will heal and I'll get back to some of my old ways. But I've learned a lot of new things that I'm sure will help me in working with other people as well, because I'm
Mhm.
in another scenario now that I have to adapt and change.
Yeah. It just shows how resilient we are, and we will hit speed bumps, and it's okay. It's not the
Hmm.
end of the world. It's not failure. It's just a new learning opportunity, a new way of growing and becoming stronger and having that more connection with ourselves. So going back to that body, understanding what's going on in the body, this is another way that you're learning about how your head is connected when you're lifting something up with your arms, and how it's all connected. Nothing is separate at all.
Well, and one of the things I really gauge for how well I'm doing is my ability to digest. And if everybody could kind of use that as a gauge, if you're digesting your food well and you're controlling some of those symptoms through the breathing and through being mindful when you're eating and eating in calm environments, not eating when you're multitasking, and
Right.
doing seven other things,
Mm-hmm.
eating foods that are, more pure and not full of toxins, that are specific for you, that aren't irritating to your system or sensitive, or if those things are still happening, then you're going to be able to deal with everything else. That inner health, the well-being of digestion is really where, for me, the source of my, you know I want to say my power, but that's really what it is. It's a power, it's a confidence, it's the essence of my wellness is in how I'm dealing with my food, and am I giving it priority? Have I made sure that I'm, even though things are really busy, that I'm doing some of my bulk cooking, that I've got some things prepared in the freezer that I can just throw together really fast as an emergency if I need to. So I'm not going to other sources of food that are going to just add to the problem that I'm already experiencing. So that's a key focus for me, is how am I managing? If my digestion and my food is in place, then it's number one priority.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's what you're saying is it's about prepping and making sure that you have what you need in times when you just aren't able to fully show up and you need something simple without having to go outsource. And you will see this as a theme throughout episodes when I speak about food, is the prepping, like making sure you set yourself up for success is what is key, so that you don't have to slip and fall off the wagon. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, Carrie, because my listeners will hear this multiple times.
And I'm sure, you probably feel the same way as I do. I didn't plan on being my own personal chef.
No.
I did not. I still kind of have a kicking and screaming, feeling about it when I have to do the bulk cooking and things like that, because I didn't grow up wanting to be a chef. That wasn't my goal. It's not that I mind cooking, but I wasn't planning on cooking every single thing that went into my mouth. And then cooking for everyone else as well, because my kids had issues and they all had to be cooked for separately because they have different sensitivities.
Mm.
So being some kind of wellness chef was not in my game plan. So I've had to really simplify it so that I only do the things that I really enjoy doing, and experiencing. And then the stuff that kind of irritates me to do, I either get help with, or I try to do it all really fast so that I don't have to experience
Yeah.
it very long. I have
Yes.
like, my husband's like, "Are you cooking today?" Because I have like 7 pots out. I have the pressure cooker going. I have the Vitamix going. I have the steamer on, the rice pot. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just throwing it all in. I have to be here in the kitchen anyway. So the oven's on, every appliance I have has something in it, and then we have a freezer that it all goes in, because I don't want to spend all that time in the kitchen, but I need the foods that come out of the kitchen. So
Yes, absolutely. I'm there with you. You're not alone with, I wasn't planning on being my own
yeah,
wellness chef. I mean, I'm with you. It's not that I dislike cooking. It's just, sometimes you're like, I just don't feel like cooking.
right,
And
right.
I do a little bit different than you. I cook more at dinner, so I have leftovers.
Yep, yep,
And
I
then a
do
lot
that
of times
too.
we have a lot of leftovers left over. I'm like, you know what? I'm not cooking dinner tonight. We're having leftovers.
Yeah, we have a whole freezer of the little snack pack things. I'm right there with you. If you're going to cook it, you might as well make extra.
Absolutely.
Throw it in the freezer and have it for later.
Yes.
But one of the phrases that I try to use when I'm talking to some of my clients is, I'm not asking you to love cooking. I'm just asking you to figure out a way to do it.
Mhm.
You don't have to love it. You might be fussy about it the whole time. I'm not trying to change anyone's opinion about cooking. I'm just saying, make it as easy as possible.
Yes.
Sneak it in there somewhere that like I play music, I play shows. We have people over and we do, cooking together. So sometimes you have to incorporate other things that you actually do and like, you do like, so that you can get through that scenario. But
Yeah.
it is a vital piece. And I think for a lot of people, it's a challenge. And until you figure out how to get over that hurdle, it can be a stumbling block, just
Yeah.
because honestly, I was just throwing temper tantrums. I was just like, but I don't want to be a chef. I don't want to have to cook. I want to go to the restaurant. I want it to be all ready for me. And finally, I was just like, okay, this is not cute anymore. No one wants to hear about this temper tantrum. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not asking you to fall in love with it. Just figure out a way to get some of it fit in. So same
Yeah.
way with some foods, I sneak some of those foods in, hide them in the blender, hide them in
Mhm.
some recipes, sneak them in so that you don't even know you're eating them. I blend it up for my husband in a shake and he downs it. And so, forever long. And yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just figure out a way. You don't necessarily have to fall in love with everything, but the
Yeah.
eating part, I feel like you do got to do that. We were talking about, healing and being in love with your food. That is still something that people have to figure out. You can't fake enjoyment of your food. It's vital that you actually enjoy what you're eating, that it
Yeah.
tastes good to you, um, and that you're excited to eat. Having an appetite and smelling something that you're excited to eat, that smells good, that tastes good, you're anticipating eating it. That's an important part. So, for me, it's soup. For my husband, it's pizza sauce.
Yeah, it's learning how, because that tantrum that you're talking about, you're not alone.
Yeah.
I call it an adult tantrum.
Yes.
And we do that because we feel like we're not being supported and we're not in alignment with ourselves. And it's about learning how to reframe it in a way that it's not a punishment, and we are actually supporting ourselves, and we're doing this to love ourselves. And I had a guest that on the previous episode that just came out last week, and her motto is love food that loves you back.
Hmm.
And it's just as simple as that. If that food's not going to love you back, you know it's not for you. And so it's just that loving relationship. So before you go,
Mhm.
can you how is the best way that, or maybe I should ask a different one. What is one advice that you would give to the listeners of this podcast, these women out there who are suffering with autoimmune diseases and just want to feel better again and are feeling lost and lonely, and all the stuff that you understand, you've had similar experiences. What is one thing that you would like them to take away?
Wow, there's so many. Um, well, my motto in general is that whether you're coping with a change or you're choosing to make a change, that you are brave for continuing to try, because the continuing to try part is the important part. It's continuing to try even when you don't feel like it. It's continuing to try even when you try something and it doesn't work, and it may not work a couple times. You decide that you're going to try to do this cooking, and it takes you 5 times to get it figured out. It's the trying that we've got to keep holding on to, because there's so many solutions that no one can pick just one that's going to help everyone. But if we each continue to try to work at finding something that is going to benefit us, that helps us feel better, and then we hold on to that one, and then we try again in the next area that we're trying to fix or improve, and then we hold on to that one, you may find 10 things that don't work to find one thing that does. So it's just continuing to try and not always believing that every single thing is the answer, because I got so disheartened from hearing all these tips or other people's stories, and I would try what they were going to try, and then it didn't work for me. So I was very frustrating, and then eventually got to the point where I was very unmotivated. So continuing to try and finding those little pearls that actually, like you said, work, that a food that benefits you, a song that benefits you and makes you feel better, a place that you like to go, a routine that works, just all these little gems. And just continue searching, continuing to try, because we really are brave if we continue to try in the face of the challenges that we face today.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's similar to what I like to share, and it's trying, actually taking action is they're basically learning experiences. So each time you try, it's leading you to where you need to be. And like you said, it won't always happen on the first try. It may take multiple tries, and it's not failure. It's not bad. It's learning experiences and getting stronger and finding what works for you.
And the other actual tip of usefulness, I guess you could say, would be to stop stampeding yourself.
Mm,
I've stampeded myself so many times over the years, and it makes every situation worse. So as we've discussed, the deep breathing, controlling your heart rate, you're not stampeding yourself if you're breathing slowly and your heart rate is calm. If
yes.
those two things aren't happening, then you're stampeding yourself, and it makes every situation worse.
Oh gosh.
Unless you're actually running from something, you know, it's not a good place to be. Exercise, sure, but not when you're doing your everyday life.
Yeah, that's beautiful as well, because yeah, because if you're beating yourself up, you're putting your
Physically, I think we
yeah,
recognize that we're beating ourselves up mentally,
yeah,
when we're saying bad things to ourselves,
yeah.
but I never realized I was beating myself up physically. That the rapid heart rate and the intense breathing and the pacing and all the constant multitasking and moving was physically beating my body up internally.
Mm,
And that's really key for everyone of every age to understand, is that level of anxiety and agitation and excitement, because it doesn't even have to be anxiety and negative feeling, but that level of agitation is very hard on our bodies to keep up with.
yes, yes, and it's not a good. healing environment, and
Not at all.
it keeps us in that survival mode, that fight or
Yes,
flight.
very much so.
So thank you so much. How can the listeners of this podcast support you? Where can they find you?
Well, I have a website, theorganichealthboutique.com, and they can visit there. I'm also just started a Facebook page, Simple Humans Girl, because I feel like I am just a simple human trying to make it in this world. It's a nod to one of my favorite kids' movies. So those are two places that they can reach out to me and contact me. And then I can also give you my directory page because I am listed on the FMCA directory.
Okay, yes. And I'll have all that in the show notes so that the listeners can go right to the show notes, click on the link, and it'll take them right to you.
Yeah, and I like I said, I specialize in digestive wellness for sure, but also motherhood wellness because pregnancies were very difficult for me. So I've got a real interest in supporting women through motherhood and pregnancies and after childbirth, and then childhood wellness. I worked with my children from the time that they were born. They had sun allergies and food allergies, and they couldn't be taken outside. And so I have a lot of experience along with my background in play therapy for childhood wellness. So that's something else that I'm very passionate about, is reaching out to parents that are wanting to help their children who are struggling.
Yeah, I mean, and I could also add to that is that you also had to help your inner child.
Oh, yes, very much so.
So that's such wonderful information, and I urge everyone out there who resonates with Kerry and feel that she could help you, reach out to Kerry. Don't do it alone. Don't be on that cliff climbing alone. Allow that coach, that assistant that Kerry had, to help you move up from where you are. Don't do it alone. It's hard, and everyone deserves to be well, and we're not meant to do things alone.
Yeah, and I love the story of the butterfly. That's what Butterfly Wellness is, the name of my coaching. And the butterfly has to make its way out of the cocoon on its own, but we as coaches help support that and help the person to emerge, victorious and with encouragement, and we can't do it for you, but we can help and just keep that positive motivation going when things kind of get tough, so that together we can kind of make some days that are worth repeating, and several days in a row worth repeating end up to be a really great life, even though we might be struggling with lots of challenges.
Yes. So thank you so much, Kerry, for coming
Thank
on
you,
the
Amanda.
show. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. It's definitely an honor to be given a nod to be a woman worth healing, because I didn't feel that way for very long, for quite a long time. So you've made a big impact on me. And I really look forward to seeing all the women that you're going to be working with and touching as well. You're a blessing.
Thank you so much for saying that. Have a wonderful day.
You